Discussing today is Mechiras Chametz. And the entire concept of Mechiras Chametz in Shiur is in Tov Mem Ches in the context of Chametz she'over olav HaPesach. And in Siv Gimel we learn Chametz shel Yisrael she'over olav HaPesach also b'nu afilu anicha b'shoigeg o b'yonis. Ve'im achroi oinosnoi b'maton ala eino Yehudi shemachutz leVeiss koydem HaPesach אף על פי שיסור מכירו אלא אין יהודי ויודע בו שלא יגוי כלל אלא ישמרן אלוהי עד לאחר הפסח ויחזו ויתנן אלוהי מותר ובלבד שיתנן אלוהי מתונה גמורה בלי שום תנאי או שימכרן אלוהי מחירי גמורה בדבר מועט אבל מתונה מנסה החזיה לא מעני. We will not go into the details of מתונה מנסה. Just more basically, I want to reach some practical questions regarding Chametz she'over olav HaPesach. But the very first source of Chametz she'over olav HaPesach regarding Chametz that was sold to a goy is a brayse Tosefta Masechet Psochim Perik Beis Halacha Yud Beis. And in the brayse we learn Yisol the goy sheboim misvino. They're on a boat, they're on a ship. And the Jew becomes aware he won't get home before Pesach, and he has chametz in his house, and he doesn't want to forego that chametz. So the brayse says he could sell it to a goy, and even though he knows that the goy will give it back to him after Pesach, ubelvad sheyetineno matona gemura. And this brayse is not brought in Bavli; it is brought in Yerushalmi and Psuchim Daf Yud Gimel Amid Aleph. So the brayse and the Rambam and the Shulchan for hundreds and hundreds of years, thousands of years, Chametz, Mechiras Chametz was coincidental and personal, very different than the minhag in our days, in which it is institutionalized and general. So what we learned at the Sefta, and in all the poskim, till 200 years ago, if it comes to be, if it transpires that a person can burn his chametz, he's far away from home, then he could sell the chametz to a goy. And that is why they didn't really go into many details how to sell a chametz to a goy. So this is a brayse, brought in Yerushalmi, brought in the Rambam. But the Rishonim didn't even discuss the details. How does one sell chametz to a goy? It wasn't very common. It wasn't the milsa the shchicha, and they relied, well, learn choshev mishpat and know how to sell chametz to a goy. But the first sources that Mechiras Chametz turned into a formal and routine minhag goes back 200 years. In the days of the Chassam Sofer, there still was no general Mechiras Chametz. How do we know that? Because the Chassam Sofer in Siman Kuf Yud Aleph and Orach Chaim writes that when a Rav speaks to his Kehillah, Shabbos Shuvah, it's kedai to instruct them, how to sell chametz to a goy if they need to sell chametz. So it is obvious that in the days of the Chassam Sofer, the Rav wasn't the one to sell the chametz of the entire community. So our minhag today is that everybody comes to the Rav to sign a shtar harashah, and a shtar harashah is just to authorize the Rav to sell their chametz, and the Rav is the one that deals with Mechiras Chametz. The one that deals with the non-Jew, with the goy, is the Rav. So in the days of the Chassam Sofer, that was not formalized, and obviously the Rabbanim didn't sell the chametz of their communities because the Chassam Sofer says that it's kedai that a Rav instructs his congregation, his kehillah, in the Shabbos Agadol Drosha, how to sell chametz. The Yeshuas Yankel was a contemporary of the Chassam Sofer, Ben Doiroi, and they actually had a shaykhus one with the other. And the Yeshuas Yankel writes in Siman Tov Amches, Shumati sheyesh b'miktzas ha'kehilas a new minhag that the Rav sells the chametz of the entire community, and he is mishabeach that minhag. The first controversy and the first discussion regarding this minhag we find a few years after the Yeshua's Yankov and the Shiur Meshiv and Shalas Teshuvas Oiri V'Yishi. Not a very well-known sefer. He was the Rav of Weiss, which is one of the important kehillas in Romania, and he was the Yasser Rav. I think his name was Rabbi Avram Moshe Toibes. And a sefer Oiri V'Yishi, Siman Kuf Yud Aleph, he totally rejects the meaning of a general Mechiras. And it is obvious from his tshuva that in the beginning stages of this new minhag, the people sold the Chametz to the Rav, and the Rav then further sold the Chametz to the Goy. And that was a great achrayus that the Rabbanim took upon themselves, because if their Mechiras to the Goy wasn't valid, and it didn't really work out, then they're over by Yero, by Yemotz, and 10,000 tons of Chametz, you know. May a person takes responsibility on his own Chametz, he does his best to look for the Chametz and to sell it. So the original minhag was that everybody sold his Chametz to the Rav, and then the Rav sold all the Chametz that he purchased onto the Goy. But in the Shiur Meshiv, we already find the new version, which is what we do up to this very day. That the community, the individual members of the community don't sell the Chametz to the Rav. They authorize the Rav to be their shaliach to sell their Chametz to the Goy. And that is what we do up to this very day. So the Oiri V'Yishi is against Shiur Meshiv, Madura Beis Chelik Beis Siman Ayin Zayin is against the minhag. Reb Shloime Kluger, quoted in a sefer called Shalas Teshuvas Nois Desha, is for the minhag. So, going back almost 200 years, there were Deis Lakan or Lakan, different opinions, but this minhag today became very commonplace, and B'kol Ir V'Ein B'Yisrael, B'kol Kehillas Yisrael, the minhag is that various different members of the community authorize the Rav to sell their Chametz. And most people don't even have any Chametz, but L'Rav Chedem Ilse. Just in case we do have some Chametz, they sell the Chametz to a Goy by the agency of a Rav. So this is the development of the minhag of Mechiras Chametz. Very well known the opinion of the Bechor Shor. The Bechor Shor is the Baal Tevuas Shor, and in Bechor Shor Psukim Chof Aleph, the Bechor Shor makes a fundamental and controversial argument, and he says, we do not rely on harama only by Nisa Darabanan, and that's a Gemara Mefareshus in Shabbos Daf Kuf Lamed Tes Omid Beis, and therefore we cannot rely on Mechiras Chametz only regarding the Darabanan. So, and this Bechor Shor is the reason many people are makbid not to sell Chametz Gomer, and many people are makbid not to buy Chametz Gomer that was sold by others to a Goy. And it is all based on the Bechor Shor. What is the Bechor Shor dealing with? The Bechor Shor is dealing with people that have farmers. And in their days, almost every person had in his own yard, in his own possession, either sheep or chickens or ducks. And they used to feed those animals with chametz. And the question is, what are you going to do with your chickens and your ducks 7 days of Pesach? Try to give them kneidlach, you probably won't eat. Or give them matzah. So most of the food that was offered to those chickens or ducks or different animals was chametz. So many had a minhag to sell their entire lul, to sell the animals and the food to a non-Jew. So the non-Jew bought the animals and he also bought the chametz to feed those animals. And the Bechor Shor says, no, you cannot rely on that, because we're dealing with an Issa Hanoah of Chametz. Issa Hanoah of Chametz is an Issa Diuraisa. So when we're dealing just with selling the Chametz, we shouldn't be over on Bal Yerov or Bal Yemotz, that's no problem. Because the Gemara says in Davov, Midiuraisa bebitul, Dav Daradom et Beis, Midiuraisa bebitul Baal Mesari. So when you do Bitl Chametz, you're only dealing with the Rabbanan. Chachamim said you cannot rely on bittul. You need to do bedika as well. That's the first toises of Masechet Pesachim. So we steer clear from a chashash diuraisa by bittul chametz. It's only the rabbanon. The rabbanon samchinen al harama. But if you want to sell chametz gomer to feed your animals, and you're selling the animals together with the chametz to a non-Jew, then we need this mechira to be valid. If not, we're going to be over on issa diuraisa, which is issa no chametz, and we cannot rely on a rama regarding an issa diuraisa. So the Bechor Shor just came to reject a minig which today is no longer relevant. We don't have chicks and we don't feed them chametz. However, I was asked many times, people that have aquariums and they have fish, and some of the food that they feed the fish is chametz. But I wrote that I don't think there's any chashash because fish food is not ra'ui lemachal. You might be surprised, but I was also asked about dog food. And one of the people that asked me about dog food ate his dog's food, and he said it's quite tasty, it's not bad. It's just expensive, and therefore he wouldn't eat it himself. So dog food, he said, is not bad. It definitely is ra'ui l'achilas kelev. We would assume it's ra'ui l'achilas kelev. And he said it's not even ra'ui l'achilas kelev, it's also ra'ui l'achilas odom. But the food of fish is not ra'ui l'achila. So going back to the Bechor Shor, other achroinim, based on the Bechor Shor, argue.
Because it's betzem ra'ui l'achilas odom, even though no one would think of that. And others.
If it is chametz and it's ra'ui l'achilas odom, then it would be a question of balya roa or balya mutza.
Fish food is ra'ui l'achilas dogim. That's the problem. It's ra'ui l'achilas behemoth chayis dogim.
Yes. Rabbi Dishwitz, did you see the tshuva I wrote about this? Yeah? So my argument was, based on the Ran, why do we need nifsal machilas kelev? Because it's ra'ui lechametz vo'isos acheres. Fish food is not ra'ui lechametz boy. And if it's not ra'ui lechametz boy, it doesn't have a din of sa'oyer, and it depends on achilas odom. That was my maskana. And I would be happy to have my chuvas available for the Kohelim guide. It would be a big excuse for me, because the Arkashal Torah is there, Boinav is there, so my heter on feeding fish their food, even though it is chametz, it's not ra'ui l'achilas odom. But by chametz you need nifsal machilas kelev. The only reason you need nifsal machilas kelev is when we're dealing with actual chametz, which is ra'ui lechametz boy. You can use it as yeast, you can use it as sa'oyer, but not fish food. In no way could you use it to be machametz isus acheres, and therefore it would once again depend on achilas odom and not on achilas kelev. But that's a good ha'ora. Why would it need to be ra'ui l'achilas kelev? If it's fish food, it should be enough if it's ra'ui l'achilas dogim. So coming back to the Bechor Shor, so some achronim argue, if we accept the basis, the fundamental argument of the Bechor Shor, that we don't rely on haroma, only regarding it as the rabbanon, so how could we rely on haroma in our mechiras chametz? Obviously, what you're mevatel you do not sell, and what you sell you're not mevatel, because these two concepts are fundamentally a tar to the sasa. You cannot be mevatel chametz that you sold, and you can't sell chametz that you were mevatel. So which comes first, bittul or mechira? Usually mechira comes first, bittul comes first. Harashor comes before bittul. But a person is mevatel chametz la'acha b'dikas chametz by night, and the Rav doesn't sell the chametz till tomorrow morning. So after bechiras chametz by night, we're mevatel the chametz de lo chamite. We're not mevatel the chametz that we set aside for seifas chametz, because we want to be mekayim the mitzvah of seifas chametz. After seifas chametz, we do bittul chametz once again, and then we're mevatel all the chametz, the chamitei v'de chamitei, the chazitei v'de chazitei. So the argument is, if you're mevatel chametz, then the mechira doesn't have any validity. So obviously, you're not mechaven to sell what you were mevatel. You are mechaven to sell what you set aside. You put into special cabinets, and you're not mevatel that chametz. So every mechametz chametz, every mechiras chametz in our day, according to our minig, is needed for a diuraisa, and not only a rabbanon. And I argue that that argument is not valid, it's not right. Because the Mechira and the Bitul, even though we assume that Voram are Tarta the Sata, but our Kavona is, if there's any problem with the Mechira, let it be Bitul. If there's any problem with the Bitul, let it be Mechira. So our Bitul refers to all the Chametz in our possession, and the Mechira refers to all the Chametz in our possession, and it's not a Tarta the Sata. And therefore, we once again go back to the assumption that our Mechiras Chametz isn't needed for a diuraisa because mediuraisa bebitul ba'al mesagi. And in the Shitrei Harshua that we use, it is clearly stated that I sell all the Chametz. Not only the Chametz that I set aside in special cabinets, all the Chametz that have the Kol Mokem Shehu should be included in the Mechira. And we say the same regarding the Bitul. So the Bitul and the Mechira, it is not that I am mevatel this Chametz and I sell that Chametz. I am mevatel all the Chametz in my possession and I sell all the Chametz in my possession. How could one sell what he was mevatel? How could one be mevatel what he sold? He can't. And that is why we don't say a brochan Bitul Chametz, we don't say a brochan Mechiras Chametz. But our kavana is to be on the safe side. If there's any deficiency on the mechira, then we rely on the bittul. If there's any chesed in the bittul, we want to rely on the mechira. And therefore, the basic assumption of the b'chor is correct and it's valid. Mechiras chametz is not needed in our days, only for the rabbanon because mediuraisa bebitul ba'al mesagi.
Raz, in his Seder Mechiras Chametz, he argues on the Bechar Shar. He argues that Bittul can't have a kiyum for masna that should be mocher, because the mice is locked up in the cabinet, and machavin to be liskos by lachar apesa. So al atzat the mechir is no good. There's no Bittul here, because after all, you're saving your chametz, you're waiting to take it matzah yontiv. That's the Graz's main. The second paragraph.
Yes, I think I brought this argument, but I think that one could argue against this assumption. I think the bittul might be a bittul gomer even though he has in mind, but maybe it depends how we define bittul chumetz. If bittul is hefker, it is clear that one could be mafker, even though his kavona is la'achas man to be choyse v'zoicha. If bittul is bittul beliboy, and it is ka'afra de alma, maybe according to him, there is more validity to the argument of Shulchan Aruch Harav that if this chametz is choshev beinecha, and you intend to buy it back, then the bittul is not a real bittul. But my more important argument is what I wrote in Minchas Osher, Shalosh Tshuvas, Chelik Beisim and Memhei, a very lengthy and very important tshuva. And I argue that we rely on Haramis even by a diuraisa. And I brought many sources. There's a Perek in Masechet Choros Keitzad Marimen. There's a Mishnah in Maaser Sheni Perek Daled, Marimen al Maaser Sheni. There are Sugis Mefaroshes, the beginning of Masechet Choros. And the entire concept of Heter Iska, we're not learning Hilchas Libis, but the entire concept of Heter Iska, let me make this very clear, is based on Haroma. Heter Iska was never a Tmimisdiki document, and every Heter Iska is Haroma. We rely on Aromas even Legabe Diuraisa Loki Divrei Bechor Shor. And I think, and I say this with tremendous hachnoa and harotza, I think the Bechor Shor confused two different concepts of aroma. Shabbos Kuf Lametes, Shabbos Daf Mem Gimel, we find that we don't rely on Aromas only by a Darabonon. What are we dealing with in these sugyas? Marim Odom ala Mishmeres. He could be toilet a Mishmeres. What is a Mishmeres? Strainer. Laniach Baremoinim. And once it's in place, he puts Shmorim. Shabbos Mem Gimel. Meisa Mutal Bechama. So people, and we're afraid that the body will decompose, and it would be a terrible bezoin for the mace. So people go out there and sit, and they just want to sit and enjoy, and it's hot. So they bring something to cover themselves, to make some shade, and their kavanah is actually for the mace. That is a harama. So we're dealing with an Issa D'Rabbanan, and therefore there were matter harama. Shabbos Kuf Lametes, and Issa D'Rabbanan, matter harama. And these sugis, we're not dealing with a kinyan. But a kinyan shel harama, we rely even by a diuraisa. So the Mechiras bases his ruling on a different concept, which is not a harama which is based on kinyonim. It is just a harama which we know is not honest. It's not true. The reason you're sitting out there is not because you want to sit there. You have an air-conditioned room at home. You're just sitting on there because you want to cover the mace. And the reason you're hanging this strainer is not because you want to put remoinim in there. You have remoinim in your cabinet in the kitchen. But you're putting remoinim there just because you want the strainer in place. That is a aroma on which we cannot rely only by a derabonon. But when we're dealing with a mechira, the mechira is valid. And we rely on mechiras aroma even regarding the Uraisa, as I proved from many sources in Poiskim and even in Chazal. And that is Minchas Osher Shalosh Tuvas Chelik Beis Simen Mem Hey. And that is why, besides the argument I said before, that mechira and bitul refer to the same chametz, and a person sells all his chametz and he is mavatal all his chametz, I think that one could rely on aroma even regarding a diuraisa.
Why isn't it more of a sad that
What?
Why isn't it more of a sad that aroma doesn't work? Dafka by kinyan, because you need das.
I think to the contrary, because the haromes in Shabbos Kuf Lametes, Shabbos Mem Gimel, are a sheker. They're an obvious sheker. Afar Piken Hetiru, because it's a D'Rabbanan, and we assume that was Das Chachamim. But when we're dealing with kinyonim, the reason I do this is a harama. But once we agree, these are the conditions of the kinyan is totally valid. It has no cheson in validity.
The Ritva, who's the Rav brings in the Tshuva, in the beginning of the second paragraph, Ritva is Takamach, seems to be Machmir, says if you do it every year, then it's Kipikod. Mela, you can't sell the chum to the same guy every year.
But that halakha is not ongenim in the halakha. The Beis Yosef doesn't paskin it, and nobody paskins it. Yes, I brought the Ritva, but
the Mishnah in Meiser Sheni, when it says you're marim on Meiser Sheni, is talking about one case in the Mishnah. At least is talking about when you keep the Meiser Sheni, you give the money to someone else to be paid there. So no kinyan on the Meiser Sheni itself.
no, the Mishnah deals with both cases. Either you give away the Meiser Sheni and you're paid with your money, or you give away money and you keep the Meiser Sheni. The Mishnah refers to both situations.
It's not a problem, the fact that he's still the ball of the Meiser Sheni.
No, so this proves that we rely on kinyonim that are totally haramas. But it's a kinyan. And if these are the conditions, and if both parties agree, then the kinyan is valid. Then that is exactly my argument. A kinyan shel aroma is totally valid. And therefore, it's a better to me, Chuvas Chasam Sofer Yoredesim and Shin Yudalad, that some Sofer asks, how do we rely, not Shin Yudalad, but Shin Yud, how do we rely on Mechiras Chametz when we know that the guy really has no intention of buying the chametz? And the Chassam Sofer's tshuva is more astonishing than a shaila, and he says, we don't really care whether the guy purchased the chametz. The ikar is we sold it. From our point of view, it's not ours. Whether he is mechaven to buy or not, what do we care? V'lo yehayeh lehefka. Let it be hefka. But it's not hefka. And hefka wouldn't work Midrabanan at least, hefker wouldn't work. You can't have chumash shel hefker in your possession. You need mochel anochri v'yichid loy bayis. So the Sam Sefer argues, what do we care whether he's koina? The ikar is we sold, but if he isn't koina, then the chametz never left your possession. So the Sam Sefer is a pella. It's a gemor meforeshes in Bava Basa Kuf Lamed Ches. If a person sells something to another party and that other party is moisem edo that he doesn't want to buy, then it's not hefker. If the koina isn't koina, then the moicher still has what he intended to sell. But I argue, why would we say the guy has no kavanah to buy? I think in every acquisition there are two parts, and sometimes the purchaser has no kavanah to have personal use from what he purchases, but the purchase is still a valid purchase. So many people buy real estate in faraway countries, and they just buy in order to sell. Person buys real estate in Hong Kong. He has no intention of moving to Hong Kong, but he buys just to make a profit and sell. I think when a guy buys chametz, it's the most enticing investment in the entire world, because the minig is he pays 50 shekel, and the minimum he is paid after Pesach is 200 shekel. I'm the cheapest Rav in Yerushalayim. I have my guy pay 50 shekel, and I pay him 200 shekel. Once my guy came with tinus, he heard that others get 500 shekel, 1,000 shekel. So my guy had complaints. In 1 week, he makes 400% on his money. Is there any investment in the entire world in which 1 week you make 400% and it's guaranteed? It's not, it doesn't depend on the markets, there's no fluctuation, you can't go wrong. So I don't think there's a better investment anywhere in the world. So why would we say he doesn't really have kavanah to buy? I mean, it's a great investment. He has kavanah to buy, and he sells it back, and he makes a lot of money. So the fact that he doesn't have kavanah to eat the chametz means nothing. He doesn't want to buy to eat. He doesn't want to consume it. He buys in order to sell. And we rely on haramis that are kinyonim even by the uraisa. Lo kediv abchorsho.
In Eidish Moshe, they bring that he was makbid that Rosh, the guy should pay enough money that there should be a shabbat pruta for every moicher chametz.
Yeah, that is not an Eidish Moshe. That goes all the way back to Rabbi Yitzchak Lachanim.
Yeah.
That's a ha'or of Rabbi Yitzchak Lachanim. And the question is, when a guy sells, how do we define the shlichus? Do we need a pruta for every one of the actual owners of the chametz, or it's enough if the shaliach gets a pruta and he is authorized to sell? So I wrote a kuntris, and I think it was a lengthy tshuva. I think it was printed in the sefer of our dear friend in Koil, Rav Ovadia Yosef Toledano, on the sefer Mechiras Chametz. I think he printed what I wrote, and I dealt with this question. And my conclusion was, we rely that we don't need a pruta against every one of the marashim. So if you have a big crowd that sells chametz, then you need to take some more money. But the minig is not to be makbid. And the first that comes up with this ha'ora is the Be'er Yitzchak Rabbi Yitzchak Lachanim deals with this question. So there's a very famous Masas Binyamin, and I want to talk a few minutes about the Masas Binyamin because it's a Gavaldic tradition. And the question is, to what extreme do we take this Masas Binyamin? The Masas Binyamin was in the days of the Beis Yosef, a little bit younger than the Beis Yosef. He was a friend of the Ramah, and Chuvas Masas Binyamin Simenun Tess, he deals with a Maisa Shahoyo, a person sold chametz, and the only kinyan he used was kinyan kesef. And it's no wonder, because as I explained before, it's less than 200 years that the Rabbanim take care of the Mechira. And the entire world uses more or less the same shtoros, and we all do the same kinyonim, and it's a combination of 6 different kinyonim regarding Hamokim Sheman Munach Chametz, and then 6 different kinyorim which are chal on the chametz itself. But once upon a time, each individual sold his chametz. So all the person did is the guy paid money and he sold him his chametz, and it's a big machlokes whether kinyan kesef is sufficient. Ben Yisrael a guy. So the Masas Binyamin b'diavad is Mekel, and the Masas Binyamin writes, he bases his ruling on the Ran. So the Ran, in the beginning of Masechet Pesachim, the Ran deals with the question regarding Bittul Chametz. The Lashon of the Gemara is Mevatlei B'Liboy, and according to the Ran, Bittul is Hefker. So how could it be Mevatlei B'Liboy? Hefker tzorech liyas b'fnei shloisha, and Bittul Chametz is never b'fnei shloisha. Nowhere do we find that Bittul Chametz needs to be b'fnei shloisha. So the Ran has 2 problems with Bittul Chametz. Hefker definitely needs to be b'peh, and it needs to be b'fnei shloisha. Bittul Chametz is Mevatlei B'Liboy. So the Ran writes. בעצם שני דבר המינה ברשוסי של אדם, ועשון הכוסף כאילו הם ברשוסי. So it is enough if we have a gilui das that he doesn't really want this chametz, and then we say loy asoy kosov keilu hu b'rshusoi. So the gilui dat is sagi. That is what the Ran says. So the Masas Binyamin says this person sold this chametz, so he proved he doesn't want to have this chametz on Pesach. So the gilui dat is sagi, just like the Ran writes. That is why we rely on Bittul Chametz B'Liboy, Bittul Chametz Shelo B'fnei Shloisha. The gilui dat is sagi, and therefore he's not over on Bal Yarov, Bal Yamotza. And the Masas Binyamin quotes the Beis Yosef. The Beis Yosef quotes the Ran, and therefore it is enough to steer clear from the Issa of Bal Yarov and Bal Yamotza. Nahar Sholem, one of the most important Sforim on Shulchan Aruch Chaim, in Simetov Ches, quotes the Masas Binyamin, and he rejects the Masas Binyamin, and his argument is that all the Beis Yosef means to say is if a person did is shaliach to be mevatel chametz, he could rely on the bittul of the shaliach, and that's a machlokes in the Rishonim. The Ran brings the Balaitur that one cannot be mevatel chametz out of the shaliach because bittul is hefker and hefker is neder, and a person can't make a neder out of the shaliach. And the Beis Yosef says, b'diavad you can be mevatel out of the shaliach because shnei devarim eina b'shusay shel adam. That is the Beis Yosef. So the Nahar Shalom argues that this Beis Yosef is different because actually he is mechaben lahafkir, and if he's mechaben lahafkir, even though the hefker is somewhat problematic, we say the hefker is still valid. But by the Masas Binyamin, he wasn't mechaben lahafkir. His intention was to sell, and if the Mechiras is not valid, it doesn't become hefker. So that's the argument of Nahar Shalom. But the Masas Binyamin actually is reasonably based on the Lashon of the Ran. The Ran says, Shnei dvarim eina b'shusay shel adam, v'ason hakosov kina b'shisay. So it's enough if we have a gilui das. But the big problem with the Masas Binyamin is how far would we take this argument? Almost every year, as I finish the Mechiras Chametz and I say goodbye to the guy, they're always the latecomers. They run up the steps in Rachav Kagan, could we still sell Chametz? And I say, I'm sorry, we sent the guy away. So what I do is I include in the Mechiras Chametz all those people that are on their way here, or the people that usually sell with us Chametz and they forgot or they didn't even get around to do it. Does anybody remember this discussion? Does anybody here remember this discussion? I think just 2 months ago. Yeah? When we discussed could a person be mafresh challah for the entire city, for the entire world, for the entire country? And I related to the question, could a person sell chametz of the entire world or the entire city? And I said that if you're dealing with a group that could be defined, then one could rely by the Eved, b'shas adchak, that it's valid, but not for an unlimited number of people, for the entire world, or a city that has 500,000 toshavim that never see each other and don't know each other. It would be different. So I do include in the Mechira people of our Kehillah, of our community, the people that usually sell chametz by me, the people that might be on their way here. So, b'di'evid, one could rely that the Mechira is valid. But why wouldn't we use the Masas Binyamin? Girudatoi, or a person is at home and he tells his family, I don't feel well, but I'm a Galadas. I would very much like to sell my chametz to the Rav, and I would hope by a miracle he might show up at my doorstep, and I would be happy to sell him the chametz. So, how far do we go with this Masas Binyamin? Shnei Devorim Ein V'Shil Shel Odom, Dai B'Gilui Das. So, Ibediditalia, I would say, all the Ran is Mechadash is that if a person is mafkir, the kavanos lahafka, and he is mafkir, even though the hefker is not according to kol proteo v'tikdukeo shetiknu chachomim, the hefker is still valid. By a stretch, we would accept the Bes Yosef hifkar al yedei shaliach, even though there is no shlichus by hefker, gam bezeh ma'ani. But saying, person did a kinyan, but the kinyan isn't valid, he wasn't mafkir. And after all, a person needs to be mevatel chametz or mafkir chametz. So this Masas Binyamin is a big chiddush. So the Mogen Avraham quotes the Masas Binyamin, and the Mogen Avraham says you don't need Mesiras Maftayach. So the Mogen Avraham does apply the Masas Binyamin to Mechira, and he accepts the Masas Binyamin. And I would still argue, at least he did a Mechira. He did a Mechira. So the Ran says he did a Hefker, but the Hefker wasn't entirely valid. He did a Mechira, but the Mechira wasn't entirely valid. So the Mogen Avraham obviously does rely on the Masas Binyamin. That is an interesting thing. One other topic I would like to discuss, because I know that you spoke about it in Koilel, and that is the Chumrah of the Makor Chaim regarding Chametz Shekibel Olav Achrayis. So the Makor Chaim, as you know, is the Nesivos. And the Nesivos was a Gavaldige Charaf and a Gavaldige Chachim. And the Makor Chaim finds a fundamental problem in all the Shitra Mechiras Chametz that we use. And he argues, based on the Gemara in Daf Hey, Chametz Shanoch Shekibel Olav Achrayis. Person is over Bali Rova Bali Motza. And Chazal Darshan from Lo Yemotzei, Motzoi Biyodai. And I think I said a shiur when we started learning Psochim about the concept of Motzoi Biyodai. And the question we discussed is, what is the Yesod of the Isra of Bali Rova Bali Motza? Is it Shaloi or Bershusoi? And I explained it's not Shaloi, it's not Bershusoi. It's a new definition, which is unique to the Sugya of Bali Rova Bali Motza, and it's Motzoi Biyodai. So, if a Jew gets a pekodin from a guy and kibbel olav achrayis, and it's a machlokes and a shoynim, what level of achrayis? Achrayis of a shoyel, oinsim, or achrayis of gneva v'aveda. But kibbel olav achrayis, the yisor is over on Bali Roa and Bali Motza. So the Makor Chaim says, we sell the chametz to the guy. So the chametz is in our possession, but it actually belongs to the guy. And the guy pays a deposit. And he needs to pay all the rest. And he is mekabel olav achrayis. But we know that the achrayis is a joke. And if the chametz will be burnt or destroyed or just disappear, then the guy wouldn't pay a cent of the money he owes us. So that is chametz which is b'achrayis Yisrael. So how would the mechira work? If it would really be the guy's chametz, and it would be a pekodem b'rishu seinu, kibbel olav hayisol achrayis, then he's over Bali Rova Bali Motza. And this chametz is ba'achrayis Yisrael. And if the chametz gets lost by any way, the guy wouldn't pay. That means it's b'achrayis yisor. So that is the argument of the Makor Chaim, and the Shulchan Aruch Harav is actually choishish to the Makor Chaim, and that's why Shulchan Aruch Harav says you need an Orev Kabbalan. An Orev Kabbalan, that if the guy doesn't pay, he will be willing to pay, and if there's an Orev Kabbalan, then the Yisor Loi Kibel Olav Achrayis. But the solution of the Shulchan Aruch Harav in itself is a very problematic solution. So who would that Orev Kabbalan be? If he's a goy, then it's okay, but you'll never find a goy to be an Orev Kabbalan. So if the Yisor is an Orev Kabbalan, it's in his achrayis. Okay, but it's not his pekodim. So there is no chiyuv only if it's his pekodim. Most achronim rejected the Makor Chaim, but they rejected the Makor Chaim in several different ways and for several different svoros and different angles. And most of the tshuvas I'm aware of that reject the Makor Chaim are from Gedoyle Poilim, Gedoyle Galicia, and not always do they clearly define what they mean to say. So the Shoel HaMeshav has about 6 or 7 sources in his Sefer in which he deals with the Makor Chaim, and he totally rejects him, and he says it's a milsa d'tmiyah, but it is not very clear what he means to say. Shoel HaMeshav, Madura Alaf Chelek Alaf Simen Pei Vav, Madura Gimel Chelek Beis Simen Kuf Mem Ches. The question starts in the first Sif in Simen Tov Mem, in the din of Chametz Shekibel Olav Achrayis. So the Mechaber writes, Ein Yehudi, which actually means goy. Shiv ketchem tziyetzel Yisrael. Imu chayim b'achrayis maganai v'varei, de ben shu b'beisa, ben shu b'kol mokom b'shusoi, chayim l'vayar. Yesh oimrim, she'afilu einay olav elu shoy mechinam, shechayim b'pshia, chayim l'vayar. V'afilu ameinu chayim b'achriyusoi b'din, ele sheyodeya she'agoy alem, v'yichpeu l'shalem im yoivad, Chayev levaroi. That is the Shittas Rambam. Perik Dalad Alocha Dalad. Chametz Amatz. So the Gemara says, Kibel Olav Achrayis. The Rambam is Mechadish. If a Yisur got a pekodin from a guy, and he promised to look over the pekodin, and he wasn't Mekabel any Achrayis, but if he knows that the guy is powerful and violent, and he will kill him if he doesn't pay, then Yesoiva Babali Roa Babali Mutza, Vachayev Levayeres Chametz. The Ravid disagrees.
Shlomo.
And the Ravid argues,
Says Shlomo.
the Ravid argues, Kibbul of Achrayis is only Achrayis B'din. But an Achrayis which is not based on Din, it's just a fact, is not Motzu B'yodoi. That's the opinion of the Ravid. And the Mechaber brings both shittas. Yes, oimrim. Shafilu eino yolav ela shoy mechinam. No. Vafilu em eino chayev b'achrayis, ela sheyodea, she'en Yehudi alam v'yichpeu l'shalom em yoived, chayev levaroi, v'yesh choyrokim. So the Mechaber brings 2 different opinions. Both are Yesh Oimrim. According to the Yad Malachi, when the Mechaber brings 2 different opinions, Yesh Oimrim, Ikar Shitosoi Kishito Shnio. And the second opinion that the Shulchan Aruch brings is the Ravid, that Be'agoy Alim, there is no Chiyuv. So by basic halachic definition, we don't really need to be choishish to the Makor Chaim, because by halachic definition, the guy bears total achrayis, not the Jew. That is clear in the Shtar Mechira. So the Makor Chaim argues, according to the second opinion of the Mechaber, we have a problem. The Mishnah Berurah Simchot Meches writes, Yesh oimrim, v'lechatchila, yesh lochosh l'dei yazu, lefichoch, im ha'akum bala pekodin lefonav, tzorech la'achzaloi. And if him ein ha'akim kan, yasa b'chiz chumetz v'yavatel gam kein. So the Mishnah Berurah writes, Yesh lahachmir kishit zu. And why is that? שיש להחמיר. So we call Shulchan Aruch Choik Yankov, Elya Rabba, Chai Odom. So why do we have to be machmir according to the first shitta? 2 reasons. The Yad Malachi writes, so the basic klal is, Ikar Shittas HaHalacha, Ki Yesh Oimrem Basra. But why does the Mechaber bring Yesh Oimrem Kama? In Beis Yosef, there are machlokes almost in every sif in Shulchan Aruch. But in most cases, the Shulchan Aruch doesn't bring both opinions in the Shulchan Aruch. So the Yad Malachi explains, and this is one of the Klola HaHeroah, when the Mechaber brings 2 opinions, even if Ikar Da'atrei Kishita Kamoe or Shita Basra, the reason he brought the other opinion is Lachatchila Yesh La'achmir. That's one reason. But the Mishnah Berurah on Sif Kot and Tes writes, Yesh Cholkim, the Kivin Sheisora Kibro Lavachayis, V'potor Medin Toero Medin HaMalchis, Ein HaChometz Nechshev Kishaloi, U'Makol Makom, U'Ikar Kedei Rishoino. It's not only that we need to be machmir lechatchila kedei rishoina, ikar kedei rishoina. However, mekol mokomim over olav haPesach v'over olav haPesach ein lahachmir v'afilu b'achila mutar. So on one hand he writes ikar kedei rishoina, but lagav chometz she'over olav haPesach he is matir even lechatchila afilu b'achila. Why? Tzvei kedei rabbanon lekula. Chometz she'over olav haPesach is a derabanan. And even though Ikar Kishita Rishoina, the Gaba Chometz she'over olav haPesach were a maker. So this is a matter of dispute. Is the Ikar Kishita Rishoina? That is what the Mishnah Berurah writes, because many Gedolei Achronim rule according to the Shita Rishoina, which is Shittas HaRambam, including the Choik Yankov, Elya Rabba, and Shulchan Aruch. But if we rely on the Yad Malachi's klolim, then the Ikar Das Shulchan Aruch is Kishita Achronim. So Reb Shlomo Kruger, when he deals with this question in Elef L'cho Shlomo, Siman Reish Memvov Orachayim, he writes, the Shittas HaRambam is a Shitta Dechuyo. So, obviously he disagreed with the Mishnah Berurah. And Reb Shlomo Kruger writes that the Choik Yankov and the Shulchan Aruch aren't right. But we are choshesh to the Mishnah Berurah, and it does seem to be clear that most of Gedolei Achronim maintain Kishittas HaRambam. But I want to quote 2 fundamental svaros to reject the chumrah of the Makor Chaim, and I think both these svaros are extremely well-founded and reasonable. One is the Divrei Chaim, Shuvas Divrei Chaim, Or Chaim, Chelik Beisim and Mem. The Divrei Chaim argues, the Machlokes Rambam and Ravid is only by Yisrael shekibel pikodon lishmira, and he promised to look after this pikodon. We need a pikodon, like kibel olav achrayis, but in practicality, you know that you have achrayis, even though like kibel olav achrayis. But you know as a fact that you have to pay up. But if there is no pikodon, then, and the Jew never promised to look after the chametz of a goy, in that case, even a goy alam, it would not be defined as motzui biyodoi. And therefore, by our Mechiras chametz, it's not a pikodon, and the Jew never obliged himself to take care or look after the chametz. The goy never demanded it. So in that case, the factual achrayis would have no significance. So the Divrei Chaim argues, if a guy just threw his chametz into the chotzer of Yisrael without his consent, the Jew never was aware and he never gave him permission to do so. But a goyish neighbor, a gavra alma, brought his chametz into the Jew's house and put it on the table, and the Jew knows of chas v'sholem, this chametz will get lost. You will have to pay. In that case, it's not motzei biyodoi. The Machlokes Rambam and Ravid only applies to a pekodon in which the Yisrael took upon himself to look after the pekodon, but he wasn't mekabel achrayis. But if we know the guy will demand achrayis, then it has a din of chometz kibel olav achrayis. In our case, it's not a pekodon, the Yisor never took upon himself to safeguard or look after the Chametz for the Goy, and therefore it's not relevant. But I think the more powerful argument, which we also find in various Divrei Achronim, and I think probably that's the kavanah of the Shoel HaMeishav, Imre Yosher, Rameir Arak, Chelik Beisim, and Kuf Chov Daled. And this is what I said when I spoke to Rav Dershowitz about this. I think Kibbutz of Achrayis is only when the Yisor will have to pay money out of his pocket. In our case, the Yisor wouldn't have to pay. It's just that the Goy wouldn't pay what he took upon himself. That's a chayiv. That's a mandatory chayiv. That doesn't put the Chametz into the possession of the Yisrael. The Goy owes money. We know that he won't pay. So, you could try to get the money out of him. You don't have much of a chance because it's not kofif to Beis Din, and the Beis Mishpat wouldn't require him to pay for this purchase. But that is not achrayas, which renders the chametz matzui biyodoi shel Yisrael. It is only kabbalas achrayas in which the Yisrael will have to pay out of his pocket if this chametz is lost, and therefore that is matzui biyodoi. But in our case, the Yisrael just won't get the money that the Goy promised. The Yisrael never really planned to get the money, and therefore that would not be defined as kabbalas achrayas to make the chametz matzui biyodoi. So these two arguments are the arguments that most Rav Rubam Shel Achronim reject the Makor Chaim, and therefore I do not use the Or of Kabbalah, and I think Ruba de Alma were not makabel the chumrah of Shulchan Aruch that we need Or of Kabbalah, and I think the Makor Chaim is a Chiddush Godol, so la'alocha l'maisa I'm not choishish to the Makor Chaim.
The Shtaros all put in the Maisa, they write that the Goy is makabel all achrayis ointzim pshia alza. Maybe if we're not choishish for the Makor Chaim, we should take out that line. It's a chuch b'tzlua in the shtar. The shtar is a serious shtar. In that line, it's not a serious line. He's makabel machrayis pshia. If the yid is peshem burns down his house, it says the Goy is makabel achrayis. What are we gaining by that line?
What we're gaining by that line is, after all, the entire chumrah of the Makor Chaim is based on Shittas HaRambam. If we don't have that line, we might have a problem with the Ravid as well. Because if the Goy is never makabel achrayis, and it is officially and halachically b'achrayis Yisrael, then we have a problem according to the Ravid as well.
Maybe to just write the Yisrael is not makabel any achrayis. That's emes. Not makabel achrayis.
Yes. You have a point. Maybe it would be better to write that the Yisrael is not makabel achrayis, no achrayis, and so we're yotze according to the Ravid, better than write that the Goy is makabel achrayis, which we know is a chukah v'tlum. I will consider that. Maybe this coming year we will change that.
There's a question that's in the Sefer, of Avodah Sefer, about if the chametz is in danger. Hefsed Meruba, could the yid actually go save it via dying?
Yes, I wrote a tshuva about that. And Behefsed Meruba I was makel. I was asked that question a few times. Actually, a Yisrael sold chametz to a Goy. And the chametz was in freezers, in huge freezers. And he was notified chalamoid that there is a ketzach hashmali, and if he won't act immediately, then he will lose a lot of money. So the fact that he wakes up in the middle of the night and spends a lot of money to either fix what's broken or transfer the chametz. I was actually asked, could he transfer the chametz to another place? And the question is twofold. Roitze b'kiyumoi, and would that invalidate the Mechira? And Lamaisa I was makel on both counts. And I said, after all, it's not a secret that the Yisrael intends to buy it back after a Pesach. I mean, and that is legitimate. That's in the Shulchan Aruch, it's in the Rambam, and it's in the Tosefta. Even though the plan is lechetchila that I'm going to buy it back. So the fact that I am, spending time and money that the Chametz shouldn't be lost, that does not invalidate the Mechira. It's not a secret that I do intend to buy back the Chametz. And it's a complicated sugya. In what cases exactly is there an Issa Roitza B'Kiyumai? But Lamaisa, I was Mekel. I don't know what the Rav Avadia brings, but I wrote a lengthy tshuva and I was Mekel. Okay, so we discussed some practical shaylas of Mechiras Chametz, and we also discussed some yesoides, primarily the Masas Binyamin, which is a big chiddush in the sugya of Mechiras Chametz and befrat the din of Kabbalas Acharayis.